to the Sound Legacy Podcast. It's your pal, Andrew, here, bringing you another episode. And today I've got a guest who, like most of my guests, I would say all of my guests, I really like. This guy is a new friend. His name is Mike Wolpert. And Mike is in the same business that I'm in. He is a storyteller, and he focuses on helping people tell their life story. I met him through the media center here at Marin, our downstairs neighbors. And I just liked him immediately, and it looks like we might be working together, doing some projects together in the future, which is fantastic. I get along with him really well. He's good at what he does. And we talked about where he's from, New York. We talked about storytelling and his process in helping people preserve their life stories. So I learned something, I had a good time, and we got to test out the new and improved studio lighting here at our studio here in San Rafael, and drank tea and talked about it. So that's what you're about to watch right now. Thank you so much for listening, for tuning in. If you have any questions about what I do or what Mike does, feel free to get in touch. There will be links in the show notes. My website is mysoundlegacy.com. And share, enjoy, do interesting things, tell your friends, preserve a story, listen to someone, find an older adult who needs to tell their story and listen. And if you don't want to do it, call me, I'll do it. Or Mike. Thank you so much, and enjoy this conversation with my new pal, Mike Wolpert. Salute.
Salute. Off we go.
Yeah. Thanks for coming in, man.
Yeah, this is, we got to do a couple shakedowns. I mean, only because it's embarrassing when you're doing shit in front of a client.
That's right. Well, I'm really glad, obviously, that you're here as just a guest on the Sound Legacy Podcast, but especially since we're testing all this gear.
I do love gear.
We're both fans of gear here in the studio. It's gotten a sort of a revamp thanks to your influence.
It is a great studio.
Thank you, man. Thank you, and yours as well. I really liked what you did so much that I literally copied it and bought some of the exact same equipment. So this is our first test. So you might see some microphones, our guest's microphone. We're testing his fancy against my medium fancy.
We're seeing who can make wise investments in gear and who can just fritter away hard-earned shekels.
That's right.
We don't know yet.
We'll find out. Leave your opinion in the comments. So man, you and I have become pals in the past, I don't know, a couple months.
Short months, yeah.
I met you through an event here at the Marin Community Media Center. You're teaching about family legacy videos, and I have a very special interest in that exact topic. Came down, I think from my perspective, we hit it off.
I'm like, who's this dude?
Yeah, very specific questions you're
Very
asking.
specific questions.
Yeah.
Usually it's filled with people who are going, is my iPhone good?
Yeah. Well, I want to talk to you about, obviously, the family legacy business, but I'm also curious about you because you are, you're a former New Yorker. I guess you're never really former New Yorker. You're kind of always.
It does actually. Well, no, you're not actually, because you have certain traits that last forever.
Yeah.
Pushing back against people that annoy you is exceptionally honed by New York.
Yeah.
Driving skills.
Yes.
Feedback to other drivers.
Yes.
Is typically a New Yorker thing. Use of the horn.
It's a language. It's not just. There's so many different ways to communicate.
And when you're from New York and you're out here in Marin County driving around with the Dambly Bamblies in their fancy cars, and you lean on that horn,
you're gonna.
You could have that's incoming. Boy, you can see them. They get all nervous. So I like that, but I try to put most of that aside.
Yeah.
And I often say, because I love it here so much, I often say I'm a Californian accidentally born in New York.
Oh wow. Wow, that takes a lot to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like to say, boy, that pizza was good.
Well, I haven't ever said that.
Yeah.
I mean, right. Sometimes I'm a little horrified at what Californians put on pizza. Yeah. First of all, there's no reason to eat an artichoke to begin with. I mean, have you seen an artichoke plant? So to put it on a pizza boggles the imagination.
I can appreciate that.
On the other hand, if you have to give up a little bagel action and a little pizza action in exchange for highly educated, wonderful people, clean environment, beautiful shoreline.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I never get tired of California.
No, same.
Just love it.
Every time I cross the Golden Gate Bridge, before you even get to the Golden Gate Bridge, you come to what's the Robin Williams Tunnel, and I see, even if it's shrouded in thick fog, you come over that, and it's just, you leave this tunnel into this other world. It can't get, I just can't imagine getting old.
Yeah, when I first moved to California, I lived in San Francisco in the avenues and worked downtown, and, it did TV, radio business, and everyone's very important and doing important things all the time. And I had made a friend who lived in Sausalito, or I kept a boat in Sausalito, so I'm going out there to visit him. It's a crappy, horrible day in San Francisco. I'm wearing jeans. I have boat shoes because I've been living in Florida, so I'm good. But I'm dressed for 60 degrees and foggy. And I still remember crossing the Golden Gate Bridge, and halfway between the two towers, the fog is a wall, and the Golden Hills. And that, for the first time since 1977, I cut a pair of jeans.
Yeah.
Because that's not a good look.
Yeah.
But it was too hot.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
I was just, so.
I get it. Like, I'm still getting used to it. I mean, my wife, she hasn't said it as much in recent years. We've only been here for like 11 years, but she'll still say, like, why is it cold in June? That kind of thing. But it's so worth it. But we won't just keep harping on how awesome it is, because most people that are watching this might not be here.
But great thing about, the one thing I do love and miss about New York is street photography.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny, years and years later, one of the first street protest images I ever made was at an Anita Bryant protest.
What was Anita Bryant?
Anita Bryant was the spokesperson for Florida orange juice. And she came out, it was in the 70s, she came out with some nasty homophobic comments. And as we know, gays love orange juice, so that was especially insulting. But I still have the picture.
Do we know that? Is that a thing? Gays love it. Orange juice, that's it.
Oh, yes, everyone knows that. Everybody knows that. I mean, maybe a little vodka on a Sunday, but so I have a picture of a guy holding a sign in New York City. You can just tell it. And it says, "An orange a day keeps the bigots in pay."
Nice.
And I mean, it's that nitty gritty.
Yeah.
Tons of crazy people. But I wouldn't give it up. So it's a good place to be from.
I say the same thing. I'm from Memphis, Tennessee. It's a great place to be from. A lot of reasons that I like it existing and what it did for me as a kid. Would I want to live there? No. But I do want to talk about you living in New York, because I mean, you grew up Jewish. Every great comedian that I like is like a Jewish comedy writer from New York. It's got such a pedigree for
it's true.
Storytelling is such a tradition and an art form. So tell me about the story of you growing up in New York. You've told me a little bit about your dad. What are you?
Well, it was an interesting childhood. My dad was a Wall Street analyst, which is, I mean, analyst then is what they call insider trading now, because he would go and find stuff out. He would interview the head of the company, what are you making? What is the future? How are things going? Then he'd go back to the office and say, for institutional investors, because he was an analyst, so he helped manage money for big companies, and he would say buy or no buy.
Wow.
And in those days, Wall Street was a white shoe, Protestant, sort of establishment.
Pre-'80s, late '70s,
Way
80s.
pre-'80s.
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
we're talking '60s.
Wow.
And so my dad's at a firm, and the guy says, "Who here knows what a transistor is?" The little skinny Jewish kid sticks his head up in the back of the room. "Wolpert, you're our new Buck Rogers analyst." Most people won't even know who the hell Buck Rogers is, but at the time. So, and then he says, "You're going to go to California, and you're going to check out to see if there's any money in this computer business. There are two guys out there I want you to meet, Bill Hewlett and David Packard, and they might be onto something. Find out if there's any money in this."
Wow.
And so off went a fascinating career where he was always obsessed about learning.
That's cool.
And we're Jewish. So did you play a good game of football sports today? Was not a question. What did you learn today? Was a question.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my grandfather on my mother's side was a clothing designer. He came from Europe, 2 years old, one shoe, lost his shoe on the boat ride.
Gosh.
And he went to work and he became a clothing manufacturer, clothing designer. He worked in sequins back
Wow.
when sequins were,
Yeah.
30s,
30s. 30s and
20s, 30s.
Wow.
And sequins used to be a sequin dress would be like fish scales.
Right.
But they're so expensive
Yeah.
that now they're side by side.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was growing up, they were free, right? They come on long strings, which cost hundreds of dollars now.
Yeah.
But I used to play with them like they were confetti.
Wow. Where in Europe was he coming from? The 20s? I'm trying to think. Like, was that pogroms?
Well, he came as a child, and he came from Lithuania. There's porous borders back in those days.
Sure. Yeah.
So he came from, I think, pretty much what Lithuania is now. And he went on, he designed a ball gown for Queen Elizabeth.
Wow.
And just had the most fascinating conversations around the table.
I can imagine.
I mean,
You got any good stories about him? Do you remember anything?
well, he was an impressive guy, smoked a box of cigars a day.
A box of cigars.
In an unrelated story, he died of lung cancer, but he was just a big, imposing guy, well-dressed. There's a picture of him in the 20s with his leg up on the floorboard of a old Lincoln or something, some fancy old car with his hat and his glasses, just style.
Yeah, that's cool.
And he had come from nothing, and he liked to go to dinner
That was his thing, huh?
with 20 people,
Oh my God.
and he would buy. And so it was very grand in some ways. They weren't fabulously rich, and the downside to that, I remember he gave me a leather briefcase. Oh, the coolest thing ever. Really great. I was a young kid.
Yeah.
And my mother was like, "You're too young for that." And she kind of took it away. I forgive her now mostly.
Yeah.
But I was a little kid. I started crying. And I still remember we were down in the basement of their house in Brooklyn where there's a big wood shop and a pool table and all kinds of cool stuff, mysterious.
Yeah.
And I remember him looking at me and I'm crying and I'm pissed off. And he goes, "Boys don't cry."
Oh, I did not know that.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Now, $40 million worth of therapy and 20 years later,
Yeah,
this boy
right.
did start crying again.
Yeah.
But, so there were some interesting lessons,
I
but,
can imagine.
but it was always forward thinking. It's very forward thinking. My grandmother kept kosher. So she had, for people who really keep kosher, they essentially have two kitchens in one big room. Meat and dairy are separated for health reasons back at,
Sure. Yeah.
in the year zero. So some of these are antiquated customs, but it was always fascinating to me.
I can imagine. Sorry, I keep looking at the. We've got our monitors up here. I'm not used to having a monitor in my foot and my leg or in your shot. I got to keep.
I was
going to
mention that, but
I appreciate it.
I hope you can fix it in post.
Yeah, I've got a D-legger.
But it gave me the interest in everything.
Yeah, I'll bet.
My parents were interested in everything. We had, oddly, in the television business now, but we had the best rule ever. 1 hour of TV a night, non-accruable. I was the only 5-year-old in the neighborhood who knew what the meaning of non-accruable meant.
I bet you did.
The only exception was 60 Minutes. There we go. So Sunday was a bonus hour.
Yeah.
But it was a good way to grow up.
Yeah, that's not a bad rule. I would imagine that would apply to a lot of things. It would benefit people if they just limited it to an hour.
Yeah, Facebook. But that meant we could read.
Yeah.
And we weren't. My parents were not frivolous with the dollar. They were not big on you can have anything you want. That was not the way I was raised. My grandparents were Depression era Jews. This was not a frivolous bunch. except for the Scholastic Book Fair.
Oh, yeah.
I could get
Those are great.
anything I wanted.
Is it still a thing? Do those still exist?
I think it was
Yeah.
as much as 20 years ago. I don't know if it still is.
Man, those are great. The very first purchase I ever made was at one of those.
Probably
they
me
had,
too.
They had books, and somebody had like some weird little ceramics. Someone had brought in some, like, they're like, oh, it's a little vending. And I bought this little frog that I actually still have. Neither here nor there. So where in Brooklyn? What neighborhood?
Flatbush.
Flatbush, Brooklyn.
Ditmas Park.
Did you guys go fishing? Was your dad was he taking you out there?
No. My dad was an intellectual.
Yeah.
And fishing, fishing's a dirty sport. You get your hands dirty.
Yeah.
There's fish.
There's fish.
I don't like fish.
Yeah, you don't like fish?
Yeah.
I
mean, I like fish wrapped in rice and nori.
Prepared. Yeah, so you don't have to touch
or
it.
on a plate.
Yeah.
From a guy that says, will there be anything else?
Yeah.
But the idea of,
going out and catching and dealing with the fish. I get it. I like to go fishing. I don't particularly enjoy catching fish.
Yes, I like going on boat rides.
Yeah, boat rides are great.
And when I lived in Florida, that would be great because guys want to go sport fishing.
So you go way out.
You go way out. It's a day long and everyone's fighting over the chair. But I don't care.
I don't sit in that chair.
I don't have any interest in sitting in that chair. I'm going to watch you idiots from above drink your beer.
Yeah. So Flatbush, Brooklyn, 70s. I mean, what was that like, man? That must have been.
It was. It was
a lot more suburban.
Well, it wasn't. It sure wasn't what Brooklyn's turned into. That's for sure. It was gritty. It was. I wouldn't say segregated, but it was grouped. Like. Just in that way, block to block, neighborhood to neighborhood. Yeah. And it wasn't anything bad about it. Like it wasn't a negative people stuck together.
Where people, I mean, there's still to this day some of that. It's not all gone.
Especially Manhattan and areas of Brooklyn.
But even Brooklyn. I mean, 20 years ago when I lived there, I mean, it was a lot more noticeable, I guess, than it is now. But like that's the Hasidic neighborhood.
Well, yeah, Borough Park.
Right. I mean, there was,
There's some places where you're like, yeah. But when I was growing up, places like Williamsburg and Crown Heights, danger zone.
Really?
Like, we saw a guy in Crown Heights one time driving through. My dad knew a shortcut from the George Washington Bridge. It was a crazy thing. And I watched a guy stealing a car because we were stuck at a light. He's stealing a car with a forklift. He stole a car and he put it in the back of this flatbed thing that wasn't like a real tow truck.
Wow.
And yeah, it was like that.
That's bold. That's bold.
It was like that. But I was... so I was in high school and always fascinated by radio. Used to listen to the old shows and it was the late 70s. So my outfit at high school varied from army jacket, long hair, whatever. And then somebody gave me a tuxedo morning coat, coat with tails.
Yeah.
And so I started wearing that.
Of course,
as one did.
Yeah.
As one did when you want to annoy your teachers.
Yeah.
And I knew a guy named Paul, and he was kind of a theater kid. And he came up to me one afternoon and says, "Hey, I'm in a play. Can I borrow that to be in the play?" I said, "Well, this joke has run its course. So you can, sure."
Yeah.
And I said, I know you work at the radio station. If there's ever something I love,
Yeah.
And like in junior high school in 6th grade, I had invented an imaginary school newspaper.
Nice.
Called WPLJ in New York to talk to the DJ that I wanted to interview and said I would like to interview for my school paper. Everybody says yes to that.
Sure.
You don't even need a school paper.
Yeah.
That's when I realized maybe I'd cut out to be a consultant.
Yeah.
But he said, I have to quit my internship at this radio station in Manhattan to do the play. Why don't you come with me? They'll probably give you the job. Now, most careers have stronger underpinnings than that, but that is how I got started. I went with him. Here's an intern.
Wow. What was the call sign?
WPIX.
PIX.
So that's what led to my last bad decision in the radio business. Many, many years later, I arrive in California. I have a chance to go and work for KSAN, KFOG, or Alice and CBS, which are in the KPIX building.
Wow.
And I thought, let's just wrap this up. I knew it was going to be my last job in radio. I just took it to get out here.
Yeah.
And it was in the Daily News building.
Wow.
So it was a building filled with interesting people. I worked on a show called Radio on Sunday nights, which was a rock and roll interview show. So
that must have been cool.
I'm 15 and a half when I start. So I'm 16 and 17 years old. And in that 2-year period, I met every living rock and roll star pretty much.
That's cool.
I mean, like I had to pretend not to be stoned in front of Frank Zappa because he doesn't smoke, but we got stoned with Peter Tosh.
Really?
Yes. Who traveled at that time with bodyguards. They were gigantic, but it was just like,
Yeah.
we go to clubs every night. It was just this crazy existence.
I'll bet. Wow, what a good time. That's what's 80.
79, 80, 81.
Wow.
Somewhere in there. So punk rock,
Yeah.
power pop, New York City nightclubs.
Yeah.
What's troubling now is I see, not too long ago, I watched a documentary on Netflix or something
Yeah.
about the olden days in New York City, the ancient times. And then they're doing this feature on Patti Smith at a club called Max's Kansas City.
Yeah, where you would go.
Not only would I have gone, I was certain I was in the room when that was filmed, and they're talking about it like in the Pleistocene age of dinosaurs. But anything went. Quick. I mean, I was a 17-year-old bartender because there were
different rules.
There was no
rules.
rules. There were 16 state liquor agents in New York State, and there were 16,000 bars. So
it's so funny. So I'm a few years younger than you, and I lived in New York when I was in I think 19 or 20 when I moved out there, and it's just. I always feel like I'm showing up at the end of a party or it's almost over, over and everybody's leaving. And like the closest I got to that CBGB super cool era, I was selling organic food. Like we were doing these home delivery of organic food, right? So I would do these street fairs, go out and hand out organic food, like organic apples, organic stuff, like have a peach, And I see this big hulking figure walking down the street. And they got the street fairs, they got everything closed off. It's pedestrian traffic only. A guy next to me selling shish kebabs. And I see this hulking figure. I'm like, no way, man. Comes up and I'm saying, Joey Ramone, would you like an organic apple? And he looks at me and he's like, just takes it by the stem. And he's like, thanks. And like kind of shuffled off. And he died like, I don't know, 2 weeks later.
He was a weird dude.
He was a strange guy, but like that's as close as I ever got to meeting any like cool that era of rockers. Was Joey Ramone took an organic apple from me and looked like it disgusted him, but he took it anyway, and then died shortly after.
I think everything disgusted Joey Ramone.
It might have.
I mean, that was such a time because everybody that was the radio station, the moment in time. In fact, the band Squeeze came out with their first album, and the radio station's actually mentioned on that record.
On that record. Oh, that's cool.
And I mean, it was just when everyone was getting started. John Hall and Daryl Oates, had to crash on my news. The news guy was my boss, John Ogle, who was English at the beginning, and they crashed at his house, like because they didn't have any money before they ever made it. God. There was a guy that came with an upstart band that nobody had ever heard of before they even came out with an album, a band called The Police.
Wow.
Good looking guy. You know where I'm going with this. I had a pretty hot girlfriend at the time. No.
Not much longer.
Not much longer.
How are you going to keep him down on the farm once Sting shows up and starts
he wasn't really Sting at that point, and she wasn't, I guess, really my girlfriend. Yeah. But they were having a little kissy face, and I was heartbroken.
Oh, I can imagine.
But I do love The Police anyway.
Yeah. I think if I caught my wife making out with somebody and it was Sting, I'd be like pretty understanding. Like, okay, fine.
I mean,
fine.
When you look, you're like, well,
all right.
I mean, okay. He was so good looking back then. Even I was like, well, I'm not gay, but it is the 70s.
Everybody's a little gay.
Everybody's a little, But it was just amazing because I realized they're regular people.
Well, what's interesting to me about like your trajectory, I mean, I obviously really like New York. I like that whole scene, but the storytelling aspect of your life specifically, like the things that sort of guided you to what you're doing now. Mm-hmm. I mean, you tell stories with photos, with video. You've done a lot of what I try to do. You've done these family legacy videos.
Yeah.
How did that get shaped in you? What was it that like drove you to want to do that?
Well, I think it starts with storytelling as a Jewish tradition, and is somewhat baked into the culture. My grandfather at one point said, well, I questioned something
Mm-hmm.
about, like, I was in Hebrew school and I came home from, how was Hebrew school? I'm like, listen, people don't really believe this shit, do they? I mean, honestly, which was my initial and current take on religion. But he said, we're more historical Jews.
Mm,
And I instantly understood what that meant, the context of background and,
right.
the canvas that our lives are painted on. Okay, great.
Yeah.
That's what brings us together.
Yeah.
The traditions are lovely. That totally worked for me. And so there was a lot of dining room table storytelling stuff from business. But I think what helped was going into the radio business
Yeah.
and selling radio ads. And for many years, I sold radio ads like, then I realized that a lot of people would do that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you came in with something, a spot, a commercial, you put the effort in, you knew about their place, 90%. Your close rate's 90%.
Really? Just doing a little bit of
Just-
pre-production
yeah.
research on
I
it.
mean,
Yeah.
I would, and when I became a trainer later on, I would tell people, don't you dare make a sales call without visiting that guy's business on a Saturday to see what he's about. And not, hi, I'm here to see your business. Go be a
Right.
customer.
Yeah.
Go buy something. Don't buy something, whatever you want. But
Right. Understand what it is. that
yeah.
you're- Yeah.
And so I realized that, we're started to craft these little 60-second
Yeah.
ads, but they had to be better than ads.
Yeah.
And I think where it really crystallized for me is in, of all places, Daytona Beach, Florida. I met a guy who had owned a restaurant, and some restaurant guys are like this. They own a restaurant, and the business that they're in is selling the restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, going to take a big bunch of money down, month. The guy can't make it, bankrupt, take it back. Next guy. So he had done that a few times.
Yeah.
And this time he's taking the restaurant back and he's cleaning it up and blah, blah, blah. His name was John. John had a restaurant. It was called Whiskey Pete's. And it was not a dive bar, but, pretty good.
Not a dive bar.
Not a dive bar.
Yeah.
It was a bar.
Yeah.
And we had just put a radio station on the air called 95.7 The Hog, which in Daytona Beach, Bike Week,
Yeah.
brilliant.
Yeah.
And he was just absolutely turned off. Advertising doesn't work. Radio doesn't work, blah, 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 blah. But I said, I bet you it does. I bet it does. And now I had to figure out something. So this guy was a bit of a character. So we made Whiskey Pete his name. And I started crafting commercials about him. Just the things that he did. Oh, we make fried wings. You know what they do? They do the wings in the fryer, comes out of the fryer, bang off the grease, toss them on the grill them up, dip them in the sauce. And we just created all this stuff.
Right.
And it was like, kind of fun commercials. Then I was in them. The morning DJ was in them. It was really no more than three guys getting together for 60 seconds worth of hilarity in the studio.
Right.
And one of those guys was making it up. One of them was voicing it and the other guy was paying for it. But it got to the point where nobody called him John.
Really?
Everybody called him Whiskey Pete.
Wow.
And I went there one day and it worked. I mean,
Yeah.
his place took off. And I grabbed him from behind the bar one day and I said, come on. And we had round bumper stickers. It looked like a big meat stamp, The Hog.
Yeah.
And I took him out to the parking lot out back and I said, every single freaking car
Has them.
has a bumper sticker on it.
Yeah. When you think of an ad, I mean, there is a story arc in an ad.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one thing to have cameras and all this stuff to help tell your story. But in radio, when it's just the voice,
Just got to be a
just
hook.
voices and some music and some maybe, sound effects. But to tell that story and have a hook and to take somebody on an arc is a very specific thing to do. And it's to be persuasive with it is its own art.
And you can't make a 60-second hero's journey every
Right.
single time.
Yeah. You're not going to.
But the problem solution path
Yeah.
idea of a story.
Yeah.
Hey, here's the problem.
Right.
Is your head too big to fit in a hat? A lot of people's heads are too big to fit in a hat. Well, good news, we make big hats
Right.
for heads. Come on in,
Yeah.
So, but it's the personality. It's the, oh, you want people to go, oh, like I knocked the grease off the chicken wings.
Mm-hmm.
That became like a thing. And he then had to do that. You know,
Yeah.
people get hooked into the story.
Sure.
One of my favorite ones is when I first started doing the Social Jumpstart TV show years ago. I had the guys from Pacific Catch, local restaurant here. I think they had 2 stores or 3 stores at the time. Now they have 11. So, but his story was fascinating. They got a call one day from Apple, said, hey, we're thinking about doing a promotion. Would you be interested? Are you cool with that? And they were like, yeah, sure, great.
Yeah.
Then they come out with the iPhone. So the first ad to ever run for the iPhone ran during the Super Bowl. And it was just this shtick about how it's so many things. And, you know, oh, look up octopus, or, you know, and so it shows, all of a sudden the screen shows Return of the Kraken or some Kraken movie with a giant, you know, no, not octopus, calamari. And then it pops up a map of San Francisco. Turns out Steve Jobs liked their restaurant down south, pulls up a map of San Francisco, Pacific Catch, ding, calamari. Press the button, it shows the number, ring, and the woman, who's a female hand, goes to order some calamari. Well, that's pretty cool. They had no idea that was going to happen until the phone exploded.
And
they got
everybody
200
suddenly-
phone calls that night about calamari. As it turns out, they only had calamari at the other restaurant, the one that Steve Jobs knew about. He was really hands-on with the advertising.
Yeah.
Like to a point where it's like, really? How bad is your OCD, dude? Bad enough, I
Bad
guess.
enough, yeah.
So they have to scramble for this whole thing. And they don't sell calamari at the San Francisco store. They had to, in the middle of the night, they're bringing calamari up to the store. And I think that really changed the trajectory of the whole business.
Sure.
And, you know, but just such a hilarious story.
We take for granted how novel all that was. I mean, it's just such a part of our lives. You can just say it out loud. You don't even have to type it.
Right.
You know, it's just bananas what you can do now.
And I'm not, you know, I was a little addicted to my BlackBerry. And when somebody showed me the first, remember the guys, oh, I met a girl. You want to see a picture? She's so hot. I'm like, okay. And he pulls his phone out. He had like the first iPhone.
Yeah.
And he's showing me. And I'm like, wow, I definitely do not want one of these devices.
Right. Yeah.
I'm bad enough playing Brick Breaker in my car. The good old days for you technology freaks.
Yeah.
I'll tell you.
Brick Breaker.
So.
Well, it just, when you think about like what we have now to tell a story, you know, the tools and things of the trade to tell stories. I mean, the phone really is, it's kind of incredible. And I think you and I are probably similar in this way. I obviously want people to hire me to tell their story, but it's more important to me that someone just does it, that they don't lose that story. And everybody has a device in their pocket where they can at least get something.
And that's, I agree. I do this sort of work, you know, interview filmmaking, almost exclusively. I wish I could say completely, because it's the most gratifying stuff ever.
The best, yeah.
And I've also, I hand out the questions.
Yeah.
And a gear list.
Whatever
Here,
it
look,
takes.
you get a little one of those Gobo tripods with your phone, a little tiny microphone stick on. And people come back and they're like, oh, I'm so glad I did that.
Right.
I've pushed people, sit down with your parents, do this, let me do this, you know.
Yeah, just at least get it done.
It could be even just audio, but the idea of capturing those stories, it's life-changing. I got into it because Brendan Burchard, who's a motivational speaker of super fun variety, just an earnest, good-looking young kid. Of course, he's not a young kid anymore, but just really good dude. He was at a conference and he said, he wrote a blog post. He was talking about 30 questions I wish I asked my dad before he died.
Yeah.
And I thought, my dad's still alive. My mother had passed, so I understood.
Yeah.
And I said, I have a video camera. And I went back to New York City on a visit and I began interviewing my dad.
Mm-hmm.
And I discovered 2 things. Just we had a great relationship. I always admired him. I knew what he was up to. I was always flummoxed as a kid because I would discover some crazy thing. Like, I randomly went to an art movie house and saw Federico Fellini's 8.5.
Wow.
I couldn't wait to tell him about this guy.
Mm-mm.
I went home and he, comparatively to Fellini's earlier work, I'm like, oh my God, just,
Yeah, of course, yeah, yeah.
But I sat with him, and the interview process, which is why I encourage people, I'll be happy to film,
Right.
but you should ask the questions, because it's a therapy session. And I do now families and women, but in the beginning I just did men interviewing their parents, mostly fathers, because it's a different relationship.
Sure.
You're listening. I was listening, really.
Yeah.
And I'm not waiting for my next thing to say.
Right.
I don't have a next thing to say.
Yeah.
I'm not waiting for my time to retort,
Mm-hmm.
respond, overcome. I don't have to do any of that.
Right.
I'm just curious. And I realized how amazing that is and how good it felt. And so for 3-4 years, I did that. And I could see the progression. I started, he was in his mid 80s. I finished, he was in his late 80s. And he had all of his mental acuity up until the last year. Maybe things started to shift a little bit. But I had that. And I've had people say to me, I wish I had done this when my father still remembered the stories.
Right.
And I begged them, get on it.
Yeah.
And then he died. And my whole world blew up inside. I didn't know what to do. I had no skills to cope with this loss at all, but I had the videos. And one of the greatest gifts of that was that I say, hey, Dad, tell me about Julie, my sister. Oh boy, because of who he was, he didn't say, she was a real pain in the ass. No. Well, mostly because she wasn't, but about how wonderful she was, how warm and caring and smart, and all of her accomplishments. Oh man, tell me about Valerie, my other sister.
Yeah.
Oh, her stick-to-itiveness, her mothering skills. She's a nurse. She's just marvelous. Ah, great. Now let's move on to some other questions. No, he says, you.
Nice.
So in my pocket, I have a little glass device that I can press a few buttons and watch my dad talk for 10 minutes about what I mean as a human being, a son and a man to him.
Wow.
And I cannot tell you how many times that has made my day a lot different, maybe even saved my life.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And
it's funny. I, in the beginning, would ask people to talk about their children, and now I don't. In the pre-production aspect, I will be like, okay, what are your relationships like with your kids? Because you can get on the record some stuff that kids don't want to hear. And I've heard a lot of that. So
I
you're
interviewed
very
one of my
fortunate.
very best friends in the whole world about his kids, and it was not an excellent review. And they were not excellent children. So, but I was hoping for a little more smoke.
Right. Yeah, I've learned. I will touch upon that before we turn on the recording devices. But I've steered away from that for that very reason, because I've produced one thing and I was like, oh man, I don't want to be taking that edit. I don't have to have that editorial choice in my head,
Right.
And sometimes people will just volunteer it anyway, be like, "Oh man, Patrick is such a putz," like they're whatever. They'll just say that thing, like, "Oh man."
It is what it is, and
Right.
I've had that happen too. I try to steer them. Oh yeah, that's funny. Everyone's kind of like that. What are some of the good things about Patrick? And you can you can bring it back.
Yeah, sometimes you have to cut that
But
whole thing.
a lot of times it's the process.
Sure.
Right. Like if I didn't have such a great relationship with my dad, things did shift even as we are, because I am so focused on him, and it changes the dynamic, and it's a level of respect and honor. Look, none of us in life, I don't think, ever get listened to enough. I mean,
It could be true.
with you, I'm getting there. This is good. I mean, 4 hours of podcast. This will be like a Joe Rogan thing, right?
Yeah,
like
we've got,
by sunset, we need to.
We're
be
just
done.
getting in. No, I think for me, just the having of that document, right, is clearly important. Just to have the document, even if it's not pristine, I mean, I prefer it to be, we have the tools to make it sound great. But I've recently lost a friend. He had pancreatic cancer. And, he was very hopeful that he was going to turn it around. And I was hopeful for him, but I don't know. I really wanted to get him on camera, at least on tape. And I just couldn't make it happen. He kept going back into the hospital. And when he was out, he wasn't feeling great. And I got him on the phone, and I was at work, and I just look, I'm just going to record this. And I didn't want to tell him because I didn't want him to be, because, just he and I chatting is great,
Right.
So I just started recording, didn't ask. And I am so glad that I have that. It was just like a normal, me and him chatting about stuff. It didn't get too terribly deep, but I got him talking about where his frame of mind was, what he thought about his parents, what he thought about his wife, things. And when he passed, I made like a little slideshow, just images, just a couple little video snippets, but mostly just still photos, and put it to a cool piece of music. And with those little snippets, just things that, anybody wouldn't mind hearing themselves say, just introducing that. And it sounds like he's on a telephone. It's not like this pristine audio with this nice stuff, but that elevated it to such a different thing. So that the people who saw that, who loved and cared for him, when they saw the images, the music was like emotionally stirring. But when you hear his voice come in and carry that moment, I don't know. To me, it was, I wept making it. Never mind, like when I watched the thing through at the end. And that, you just can't overstate the value of that sort of thing. And I can only imagine if you're having 10 minutes of your father saying, hey, you're a great guy. I don't have 10 minutes of that cumulatively in my lifetime of my father saying stuff like that. So,
and most men don't.
Yeah.
Maybe, and it's mostly not because their fathers didn't love, admire, and respect.
Yeah,
It's
just not a
mostly
thing you
because
do.
we're men and we don't talk about
boys
stuff
don't
like
cry.
that. Boys don't cry.
Right. Yeah.
But
Yeah. No, it's an extremely valuable thing. And I love that one of the things that appealed to me about you when we met was that you were here on your, on a nice evening where you could have been doing any number of things for free, teaching people how to do this. Not promoting yourself as a guy who does this, but saying, hey, I know how to do these things. Here's how you can do it.
I have talked to photographers because this is something you can do. I've talked to people with just iPhones because it's the process, it's the results, the stuff that you're left with. And it's also a way of really paying attention and learning. My favorite question to ask is, I'll ask somebody, what advice would your grandparents have for your grandchildren?
That's a good one.
That's 5 generations.
Yeah.
And, so it's a lot of times it's the same stuff.
Sure.
Never about how to make more money. It's
No.
about how to love, treat, decency, how to be.
Yeah.
And, but it really gets people thinking and looking at the stuff that matters, and you're capturing it.
Yeah.
I had a call from a woman that I had recorded, her and her mother, mostly her mother. Her mother was a talker. She'd ask a question, and 10 minutes later, I'd be like, your turn. Her mother had passed away. And she called, and she was sort of teary because she said, it's not that I watch the videos. I just play in the background when I'm around the house, my mother's voice. And I thought, wow.
That's cool.
Another guy flew me down to LA early on when I started doing this to interview his parents. And you've seen this story, I think, but I told the whole story about his dad was so amazing, and the stories they told were really, amazing. And his dad was sharp as a tack. And 5 years later, he was not sharp as a tack. And 6 years later, he did not remember doing those interviews. And it became foggier and foggier, but he'd watch the interview and he would cry a little bit, or he would be,
Yeah.
And my client was so happy that he captured that.
I'll bet. I can imagine.
Then he passed away.
Wow.
And that's one of the things that carries people forward. And it's not about a mourning process. I think it's There's an old saying that somebody is not gone as long as their name is spoken. Their memory is alive.
Yeah.
Somebody's not truly gone as long as their name is spoken. And, this carries on. People say, my dad said, oh, who's going to watch these videos? Who are we doing this for? I said, well, your grandson, Zachary, is going to have children one day. They might be interested.
Yeah.
They will watch this from this moment.
Right.
In this time, in this crazy year, and they'll look back like we do in 1970 photographs.
I'm sure you run into this as well. Like one of the tricky things about this business is you're having to convince two different people that it's a good idea.
Right.
Right. There's the person who's paying for it and the person who's the subject. That they're not always the same person. And people have that same thing. Well, I'm not very interesting. Who's going to care? It's like, look, wouldn't you like to hear what your great grandmother had to say? Or
yes.
I think about that now. Like, those people were wild. What they came from, coming over from Ireland or from Poland or whatever they had to do to get here. I mean, that history is essentially lost to me. Like, I've got this sort of scatter pattern. Even my grandfather, I've got this weird picture of my grandfather as a guy because my mother and her brothers all had a different interpretation of who he was.
Right.
I never met him. I mean, maybe when I was a little baby, but I don't have any functional memory of my grandfather. And he was a character, total character. Played drums. He would sit in for Gene Krupa. Like he'd robbed a bank, same bank twice. So like there's all this, I would love to just know about him. And that's only,
that's only the stuff that managed to stick around.
Yeah, but it's not even that far away from me generationally.
Right.
That's really close. So imagine how amazing it would have been to hear about his parents or his grandparents.
Right.
So when I talk to older adults about doing this, that's usually who you have to end up convincing more that it's a good idea.
That they are interesting.
And like, look, man, if you have any hopes of what you think and who you are making it into the future, that microphone is an ear and that camera is an eye of a future person that doesn't exist,
right?
Who has an opportunity to hear what you have to say about even just the time you're in now, because that will be very unusual. I mean, we were just talking about the invention of the iPhone,
Right.
That was 20 something years ago. Like how that just seems like such a foreign, different, simpler time.
Yeah. I mean, my dad was an avid learner, and he took because that's the way we said, he took 3 newspapers a day.
Yeah.
Sometimes 4, but the Times, the Journal, and the Daily News. And he was, when it came to that sort of stuff, he was a little bit of a, there's an article I need to read. So he'd get a stack of newspapers going. And one of the interviews I did towards the end, I was like, this is insane. So I put the stack of newspapers on the table behind him.
Yeah.
Not even just as a funny thing.
Right.
Well, they don't have newspapers anymore.
Right.
Sort of.
For the most part.
And we're getting there. And so someone's going to look at that and go, what's with the papers next?
Right.
What is that thing?
Right. What was he working on? Yeah, no, I mean, obviously I think people should do this, but I'm glad we're in the same town, in the same business.
Right.
And I'm glad of it. Like I don't like, oh man, Mike's going to take all the business.
Oh, I thought the same thing when we met, because look, doing the right production so it looks like this is a thing.
Sure.
And that's a thing that requires investment on the part of a cinematographer and an interviewer and a producer and all that. And well worth the price paid. And well worth the price paid. Even more. But wait, because if you order from me on Tuesday, but more important is sitting down and just doing it.
Yeah, man.
Even just a phone and like this. And it's just because of the experience of doing it and the experience, that I have. I did this almost, it's more than 15 years ago that I did this interview with my dad.
Wow.
And I can still picture exactly where we are at a house in Brooklyn one of the 2 houses I grew up in, with a sun porch, a parlor, with the windows and everything. And
cool.
And in the frame, which I never thought of back then, is the blanket that came from my grandparents' house, which was woven and fabulous and amazing, on a couch that I can't even remember the name of. It has a bed, and then another bed slides out and pops up. Next to an old radio phonograph player, when they used to make them to look like pieces of furniture.
Yeah.
three huge pieces of my childhood.
I mean, you just don't even know what's going to become an artifact
Right.
in your life until it's just either isn't or it's, scarce. So, yeah, I mean, we could sit here and agree all day long. I like
Right.
this, man.
Well,
But,
and it's, of all the memories that he left,
mhm.
he was a wealthy Jewish man. I did inherit things. The two things that I inherited, other than his annoyingly rigid moral compass, for it was he that said, I'm in sales, in radio, things a little loosey-goosey.
Yeah.
I made the mistake of saying, well, yeah, that's a gray area.
Black or white, son.
There is no gray area. It's black or white, yes or no, right or wrong. No gray area. So I got that.
Yeah.
And I got the videos. And I got a lot of books.
Yeah, I'll bet.
And I got his piano.
Oh, I saw that piano in your house. That's cool.
A grand piano.
Wow.
And I still haven't been able to start playing it yet because that was the soundtrack of my childhood.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so not everybody can, sadly, pianos aren't worth very much anymore. It is to me. It was 150 years old. It was my grandparents. They get to my father.
Incredible.
But all of these things are transient.
Sure.
The stuff is transient. Money is transient. But let me tell you a story of the day I met David Packard and Bill Hewlett
Right.
from,
Yeah. Yeah.
But let me tell you, he was at the advent of so many crazy things. And he was always fascinated and he had a great memory. So he was able to retell these stories. But I heard stories in our interviews I had never heard of.
Yeah. I love that.
And stories about his grandparents. One of my great uncles was a schmata salesman in Yiddish, a schmata. But he'd get big sheets of nice cloth and make handkerchiefs and sell the handkerchiefs. Then he'd get enough money from a pushcart.
Wow.
Then he'd get enough money selling the handkerchiefs, he could make a bed sheet or something. And so that was his business. And then somehow he met somebody from California who had some pants to sell. And so he became the first guy on the East Coast in Connecticut, of all places, to sell Levi's jeans.
Really?
From a pushcart.
Wow.
And
So you got from denim to sequins in your family. That's
and I had never even heard a remote story like that.
Yeah.
In those days, nobody was lending immigrant Jews money. You got off the boat, you know nothing. You don't go to the bank of non-Jewish rich people and get money.
Wow.
They had groups of lenders. The Koreans and other Asian groups do the same thing. It's like the other families get together and say, hey, you're new, we can lend you some money. And when you make it back, you put it back in the pot and it goes to others.
Yeah.
And one of my aunts was in charge of this. And because Jews are a matriarchal society, women are in charge of everything, except for the Hasidics. That's a different variety. But in my world,
It was ladies running the show.
when I heard that he beat his wife, I'm like, he did what? I had been at that point in my life afraid to raise my voice to a woman,
Wow.
which is a very good way to grow up.
I think so. Yeah. I agree.
So it's a joyful business to be in.
It is.
It's a thing that warms my heart. If I'm lucky to make a couple bucks along the way, fantastic. I put a lot of effort into it, as you do.
Yeah.
But you know what I like? 2 years later, you're not going to believe this, but I wanted to just tell you. And the stories you hear, I always ask about the most important things, and I try to, and quite frankly, the people that could afford to have me do it are not poor. And we live in a place where there are a lot of successful people, it's a stepladder, right?
Sure.
You did really well. You have a ton of money. You're probably pretty interesting. Let's find out. Okay. So, nobody has ever talked about the money.
Never.
Never.
I never hear anybody.
Never hear about the money. Never hear about the bragging. I started as a milkman. One of my customers was a Merrill Lynch guy. I decided I could do that. I also knew that all the milkmen had money they could invest, but nobody ever asked them. And the plumbers I knew had money to invest. I made a business out of that.
Mm-hmm.
And 25 years later, I was successful enough that I could take a half a year off at a time. And so what we did is we were sailors and we sailed to Europe and back.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the first part of that story is blah, 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 my job. For the next 20 minutes, do you know what it's like to sail across the Atlantic with your wife and 3 kids? No, I've spent many hours on sailboats. I've owned 2. I would never be brave enough to drive, to go across the Atlantic, you know?
That's bold.
So it's that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's the difference between like content and context. Somebody who can like yeah, I did this with some money, but here's what we did with it, right?
Yeah,
and that's so much cooler.
And interesting. After I did have one interview that I did, they were a couple from Santa Rosa, and they had gone on a fabulous vacation somewhere, and the Santa Rosa fires happened some years ago.
Yeah.
And their house burned down. Their house burned down, the boat in the driveway burned down, the 2 cars in the garage burned down, ashes. Their whole life was gone except for that in their suitcases. And he said, also this.
Yeah.
That's why I'm okay to do this on this video stuff with you. You
Yeah.
know? He warmed to it. He was into it. But they were living at the prime of their lives, wealthy folks, retired, 80s, in what looked like the best Airbnb I'd ever seen.
Right.
None of it was personal.
Yeah.
All of it was beautiful. But they had in here
What? Yeah.
all that stuff,
Right.
and that helped drive to share it.
That's cool.
And yeah, it matters.
It matters. Yeah. That's a good spot to end it. It matters.
It matters.
It matters that we tell these stories and make sure people, I don't know, feel seen.
I feel seen.
Well, I'm glad you do.
Thank you.
I'm glad you do.
I
Yeah.
do.
That's important.
And that matters. That feels.
Yeah.
But this is there's such beautiful, fun work. I have spent my life teaching people to tell stories about their business so they can make some more money. That's not a terrible endeavor at all.
Right.
They were never lies, I didn't think.
Yeah.
Maybe, it's just a story.
Is it
I always tell people,
no gray areas.
all the stories I tell are true,
Yeah.
and some of them even happened.
Yeah.
But now, this is juicy,
Yeah.
and it's juicy for the client.
Yes. Yes.
And it matters.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, man. We're out. We did it.
That was fun.
Look at that. Under an hour.